Vintage Brand is the story of American sporting culture, combining our rich history, traditions, rituals, and pageantry. Weaving together more than a century of American sports memories and images, it defines what tradition really means. Come experience the history and rituals. Remember and honor the legends. Feel the passion and pageantry of the past. Welcome to the greatest collection of American sports history and images, all reproduced on fan apparel and merchandise. Welcome to Vintage Brand.
And welcome everyone to our latest edition of Games to Play with Bernie Corbett. As I say every week, I remain Bernie Corbett. Glad you could join us. And once again, I know I seem like I say it every week, we have another very special guest, and certainly a man who has a number of unique distinctions in the world of football. Thus, I'm finally back in a comfort zone today. I have my Giants, I have my Phil Simms vintage jersey. I got my Giants hat like we're going to a playoff game at Giants Stadium in the background, bundled up, the gloves, the thermals, and very appropriate that our guest today is the Super Bowl 25 MVP, Ottis, my man, O.J. Anderson. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. Great to finally have a Giant. A lot of my Giant fans, friends, Ottis, threatened me because when I had Gene Fugit on, I wore a Roger Staubach jersey, and they threatened to burn my house down with me in it. So it's great for me to really feel at home and to make you feel at home with the Giants jersey. So welcome to the show, and sit back and enjoy the ride here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and I can understand why they would want to burn down your house. You can't put Cowboys on, man. You know better than that.
Absolutely. There I was. I was trying to be a nice guy to Gene Fugit. I ended up risking my life. But nevertheless, our guest here today, once again, when we talk about some of the honors and accolades that he earned in his lengthy NFL career of 14 years, he was the NFL Rookie of the Year in 1979. He was a two-time Pro Bowler, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Giants, comeback player of the year, and boy, was he the comeback player of the year in 1989, filling a very important role for the Giants and their offense that season. And, of course, Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 25, over 10,000 yards rushing, over 3,000 as a receiver through his career. And once again, we're going to part of our mission today is to maybe stir it up a little bit in terms of the Hall of Fame consideration and recognition. He is the only player to be the rookie, the comeback, two-time Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP in the history of the NFL, and one of only four running backs to score touchdowns in two Super Bowls and win the MVP. The others are Franco Harris, John Riggins, and Emmitt Smith. So pretty good company there. OJ, as I say, seems like every week, all stories have a beginning. And yours began in West Palm Beach, Florida, and then on to Forest Hills High School, where you starred in the high school ranks before college. I know you kind of gave up from my research on a couple of other sports early on. Baseball was not to your liking. You were maybe a candidate because of the curveballs. If you got pinged, you might have rushed the mound. So you said, baseball's not for me, basketball's not for me, football is my game.
Absolutely. I did try those other sports, but I quickly learned that those other sports required a little bit more talent, and I quite didn't have it.
Well, the speed was certainly a big part of the component for you. Your athletic ability, football and track stand out in high school. Your big inspiration was an older brother. You had a brother 7 years your senior, Marvin. I know he was a big influence, and he was a star athlete in his own right.
Absolutely. He was one of the best running backs that came from Roosevelt High School back in the day. And I just kind of wish I would have paid more attention to some of the things that he did as a high school football player, because he's one of the best. But I was so caught up with me and my friends playing a little soda can football at the time, when you throw a little can up in the air and whoever catches it has to run away from everybody. So I spent a lot of time doing that more than just watching them play. But I missed probably one of the all-time greatest high school player, and probably would have been one of the greatest college and pro player based on conversation I had from some players who was in the league when I got there. Basically told me that my brother, I'm pretty good, but I couldn't carry my brother's jock strap. So what did I tell you? Pardon me, ladies, for using that language, but that kind of put everything in perspective when they said also that he would have been as good as Gale Sayers. So that says a lot.
And he was an inspiration, and unfortunately, you lost your mentor tragically at a very early age.
Yes, he was in a swimming accident in college going into his sophomore year, swimming and dove into a lake, hit the bottom, broke his neck, paralyzed, and I think 4 or 5 months later he passed away. I was in 6th grade, and my life took a turn when that happened. It was like everything that he ever wanted for the family, which was a family of 5, became my dream, my goal, and was able to fulfill it.
No, indeed you did, and we'll be discussing that in detail here today. The nickname, once again, from my research, you're a little bit ahead of your time. Would you get to be maybe a little abbreviation in school that kind of led to the nickname taking hold?
Yes. If people recall, when during my era in school, you had to write your name, the date, and the grade, and the class that you're attending that day. And for those who don't know, you had to write, for instance, Ottis Jerome Anderson. The date would be 10/20. I'm sorry, 10/30, 20, and the class would have been 5th period, and then the subject would have been history, science, or math. So all of that was in the right-hand column of your paper that had to be done every day. And I just got tired of writing Ottis Jerome Anderson. So one day I just wrote O.J. Anderson, and the teachers never said anything, and they kind of promoted it more than anything else, allowing me to continue to use those initials. So I just ran with it, and it just made sense to me to just put O.J. Anderson down, and everybody knew.
Yeah, the other guy was starting to run with it a little bit. I think about the same time he was at USC and coming to pro football.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Simpson was starting to create a name at USC at the time, and I tell people I didn't get those initials because of what Simpson was doing. My biggest fan, other than my brother, was Gale Sayers. So I had number 40 on my jersey and had OJ on my jersey as well. So I'm already thinking of being associated with some of the greatest.
Indeed, and you did. Just to fast forward before we take a step back, you did get to meet OJ. You got a nice photo op with him when he was finishing his career with the 49ers. So OJ meet OJ. OJ meet OJ. That did happen.
It did. For most people who don't know, when I was at Miami, Lou Saban, who actually coached Buffalo Bills back in the day, was O.J. Simpson coach. It was part of that electric company when he went over 2,000 yards as a rusher. Had always wanted us to meet when I was in college, but the opportunity never presented itself. But the Cardinals was playing the 49ers, and it was O.J.'s last season, I think, playing professional football. And he and I met at Busch Stadium, and it was like a dream come true because I'd heard and saw the man. And I remember Coach Saban saying that I'm going to treat you the way I treated O.J. when he became my coach at Miami, in the same manner as far as your abilities. And he said, he said that one day I would hopefully I get you to meet him. But again, as I became a professional, and it was just a great opportunity to meet just a downright good person.
Mention about the University of Miami. You're obviously Florida native, West Palm Beach. What about the recruiting process and the decision to come to Miami? I believe was it Carl Selma was the coach your first couple of years until Lou Saban came in.
Right. Well, Pete Elliott was actually the head coach of Miami at the time I was being recruited. And yes, Carl Selman was part of the staff at that time. And he actually saw me play in West Palm Beach, but he later on became the athletic director for Miami, and then Carl Selman took over as head coach. But I had offers from all the top colleges around to go there, but being what happened to my brother, knowing that my mom, my brother went to Arkansas A&M back in the day, which is now Arkansas Little Rock, and knowing how hard it was my mom to get to see him play or even to visit him, I just didn't want to do that to her. She had lost a son already in this sports world, and going to Miami was an hour, 30-minute drive for her and my siblings, so it was just a no-brainer to go to Miami. Plus I was told that there were no other running back going to Miami at that time, that nobody else was being recruited. And if I went there, I would play as a freshman. So need to say, some of that was true and some of it was false. And I let you figure out which one was false.
Exactly. Separating the fact from the fiction in college recruiting. There's usually a lot of that going on. We love you. You're the only one we're recruiting until you get to campus and you start to look around.
Wow, so you figure out what was false, huh? It take you long, Bernie, to figure out which one was false.
Absolutely. I've been around college sports for a long time, so I know that translates right across the board. And you did get to play early on. This was before really the rise of the U, and it was a big, obviously a big step forward when Lou Saban took over. And Lou was a guy that really, from all indications, really pushed you to be better and to realize just how good you could be. He certainly wasn't similar to OJ. He wasn't shy about handing the ball to this OJ at Miami, just like he did up in Buffalo. You got plenty of work.
I did, and he always said, and there's some clips of him saying that if I told OJ to run 100, he'd run 98 or 99 yards, and
Right.
It was up to me to get him to get that 100. And he always challenged me. Like we used to run what we call gassers, and which was over and cross on the wide part of the field, and I would kind of hang in the pile in the pack the first two laps, first two times over. And then on the third one, I would outrun everybody, and I would do it all the time consistently. So then he put out a challenge where he said that anybody that beat me running those gases wouldn't have to do as many. So now I have all the receivers and all the running back guys who were high school sprinters going after me. And I tell you, I won more than I lost, but there are times when I just didn't have it, and I had to run extra gases because I didn't come in first. But I know between first and third every time.
No, you're going to say he knew how to push the buttons. He knew how to motivate all the way around. You enjoyed your best year in your senior year, over 1,200 yards. You broke Chuck Foreman's Hurricane records to that time, made All-American with Coach Saban. You ended up the all-time leading rusher with over 3,300 yards, over 4,200 all-purpose. That included a couple of 100-yard kickoff returns when he started to make sure he used you in a couple of other ways on special teams. Two games in particular in your college career, your memories about Auburn and the work you did to set up a winning field goal, a huge win for the Canes program, and also a game against in-state rival Florida when I think Lou handed you the rock about 40 times that day until they got it right.
Yeah, exactly. Going to the Auburn game, it was actually a third and about maybe 20 or something. And we thought maybe it was fourth down. It was a weird scenario, and we was on the opposite side of the field. We was on our, I think it was our 40-yard line or 35-yard line, trying to coming out of our own end zone, and he decided to run a draw, and we all in the huddle going like, a draw? That don't make any sense. Well, Lou thoughts were it was either third and long or fourth and long. And he knew there'd be a prevent defense. And he figured if I could get past the first wave, which were the linebackers, I had a chance of picking up the first down. Well, I almost took it to the house, needed to say. And that started a lot more and better things to come my way in that manner. And then against Florida, I was going to, I think it's the last part of my career. He had mentioned that if I was to show endurance and make this run into a touchdown run, that it'll be worth $1 million, and I'll probably be a first round draft pick. And need to say he was right about me being a first round draft pick, but he was short about that $1 million though.
That's right. The first million's always the toughest, OJ. That's what they keep telling me.
Yeah, believe it, it is.
Absolutely. They're not. It's not like recruiting. They're not lying. We don't have to separate fact from fiction. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Now we transition to that number one draft selection, and I hope you don't mind that I got the Phil Simms jersey on. He was one of my all-time Giant favorites, along with you.
No.
But the Giants, you almost became a Giant a lot earlier than became a Giant. The Giants and Ray Perkins showed a lot of interest, and they had the 7th pick in the draft that year.
Well, Ray actually visited me that Saturday down at Miami. Actually, it was that Friday down in Miami. And he and I went out to dinner at one of the steakhouses in Coral Gable, and one of the popular steakhouses, I think, is still in existence. And we were talking. He was saying, "Listen, we picked 7th in the first round, and I'm really looking to bring you in." And he actually likes a girl who was waiting on us. They have an easel. They had an easel, and he was showing me plays, and he said, "This is you. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to seeing you there." So I said to him, I said, "Well, we picked 7, so we're definitely selecting you." And after I had a dinner with him that Saturday morning, I called my agent and I asked my agent, could I tell the first 16? I saw Dorsett do it. I saw Earl Campbell do it prior to that. If I was available, I wouldn't be playing for those teams because, I didn't want to go to Buffalo, Cincinnati, Detroit. I think those teams who had early picks who didn't do that well that year, and I would have been their first selection had they wanted me. I'm assuming they wanted me to, not knowing the truth of the matter, but I just assumed that they wanted me. So I told the first 6 teams in the public in the paper that I wouldn't play for them if they picked me. So don't even think about it. And that Sunday, the Cardinals called me. Player personnel Larry Wilson called me and said they were selecting first in the eighth in the first round, and that if I was available, they would pick me. And I clearly told Larry that I appreciate the opportunity and the offer, but the Giants picking me 7th in the first round, so I won't be available. He said, "But what if?" I said, "Well, if I'm there, I'd love to play for you guys, but I'm not going to be there." Well, little did I know.
Exactly. Little did you know at the time. Let's say right back to college recruiting. You thought you might have been a Giant at the 7th pick. You end up as a Cardinal in the 8th pick. You embark on your NFL career. And mind you, it's going to be part of making my case for OJ to the Hall of Fame. The average life expectancy playing career of an NFL running back, I checked, as of 2019 is 2.57 years. Now we're going to be talking about a 14-year NFL career at that position, which is no less than remarkable. And it was a pretty auspicious debut, OJ. Think back to that first game, the Cowboys championship caliber team, the vaunted flex defense. You kind of made it look easy. This NFL thing, no problem. I got this with what you did. You were 1 yard short of the greatest debut for a running back in the history of the NFL. It all seemed to come together for you that day.
Well, what was unique about that whole season was the fact that the Super Bowl, that year was actually in Miami, and it was the Steelers against the Cowboys. It was considered Black Sunday, and I was being a senior, I was a runner where I picked up the guy's family and brought him to the hotel. So my first day, Friday, I picked up the Cowboys family and Gil Brandt. And I brought him to the hotel, and I had the pleasure of seeing Roger Staubach, Ed Tuttle Jones, Harvey Martin, Randy White, Holloway Henderson, who was it? Number 20, Renfro, was it maybe still playing?
Mel Renfro, maybe, yep.
Yeah, I think, and maybe Cliff Harris was still there.
Cliff Harris was definitely there. Charlie Waters, yep.
It was legendary Cowboys guys that were still there. And I remember just looking at those guys and the size of those guys, Tuttle, Harvey Martin, Randy White, Holloway Henderson. And I remember calling my mom saying, "Listen, I know I may have had dreams or aspiration of playing professional football, but I'm here to tell you that I don't think that's going to happen based on the size of those guys." And then the next day, which was that Saturday, I picked up the Steelers family, and I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Franco Harris, Mel Blount, who I thought at the time was a tight end or some receiver. Had no idea he was a defensive back at 6'4", 6'5", maybe. One of the biggest defensive backs I've ever seen in my life. Donnie Shell, Lambert and Ham, Jack Hamburg and Lamb were the linebackers. And then you go to the down line with Dwight White,
L.C. Greenwood.
L.C. Greenwood,
yep.
Joe Green. Some of the hugest men. I mean, I thought the Cowboys were big. When I saw those guys, I instantly said to my mom, after seeing them on Saturday, I said, "Mom, I'm for sure not playing. So I think the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine probably be the place I will be going. So don't even worry about it." But fast forward to what you said about my opening debut. It was kind of weird because I just seen those guys in February, and here we are in September, and I opened up against Super Bowl champion runner-up, I think it was. I think Steelers won it that year. But to have the pleasure to play against such a great team and great history, I was blown back because, again, going back to college for a quick second, I played against Dorsett when he was a senior, and I think I was a sophomore at Miami. We played Pitt when they had the national championship team, and most all those guys turned pro. So the Cowboys at that time were just awesome with who they had on their team. And my mom was a big Cowboy fan, and she was a big Roger Staubach fan. So it was just, again, a very unique but opportunist coincidence for me to be playing against the Cowboys, and not only that, to do as well as I did. But when you run with fear in your heart, you can do a lot of things. Fear is a great enemy, and running with fear kind of helped me get those 193 against those Cowboys.
The 193, one short of Allen the Horse Amici with 194 in his NFL debut all the way back in the 50s for the Colts.
They could have found a few. Hey, listen, they could have found a few more yards in there.
Absolutely. But
yeah.
Let's go back and check the tapes, OJ.
Absolutely.
We'll find 2 yards in there for you somewhere. And
I know it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at least your mother would be happy with me wearing a Starbucks. She wouldn't be threatening me like my Giant fan friends from a few weeks ago. That's good to hear. But
exactly.
You embarked on your career with the Cardinals, remarkably consistent and productive from 1979 through 1984. Once again, making our Hall of Fame case here. 1,000 yards every year. And the one exception was a strike year when you were, 1982. You were well on pace for 1,000 yards. And once again, it prompts the question, you were so productive and consistent, and your ability as the go-to guy, the feature guy, the bell cow of that offense for the Cardinals. But playing for a team that was winning 5-6 games every year, what was that like for you in terms of just even from a mental standpoint of what that was like in terms of you taking the punishment Sunday after Sunday for that Cardinal team, and really, with one exception, you really weren't in the playoff hunt any of those years?
Well, you play the game because you enjoy the game. You play the game because you're a competitor and you have teammates that you don't want to let down. But again, if you go back to my college career, we didn't do well either the first 3 years of University of Miami. So losing was something that I saw, but unfortunately and fortunately for me, losing was a bad omen. But me individually did well all during those scenarios. But always being a team player, I didn't take that as a pat on the back for excellence. I didn't, being excellent. I didn't take that at all because I knew football was a team game. So my goal was to continue to produce and show the Cardinals that the pick that they made with me was a good one, and that if they surround me with some more talent, that we can do some things. And they started doing that a little bit when they got Lomax and Roy came from defense to offense, and we started doing things. But I thought for sure that we would have played a more playoff game because they were the cardiac cards. And even though at the time the head coach for the Cardinals at the time had just went to San Diego, but we still had my rookie season 5 of the top offensive linemen and Pro Bowler with Dan Didoff, Tom Banks, and Bob Young were the 3 premier offensive linemen in NFL. So they alone gave me a great start, and it was all part of that 1,605 yards that I had my rookie season, losing to Walter Payton by 5 yards, only because I got injured. Late Walter Payton. Yes.
And you talk about injuries. We're talking, believe it or not, folks, not only a 14-year NFL career, but no surgeries, no broken bones. Just amazing in terms of your durability. But the injuries did begin to, the inevitability make your career more remarkable because of the way that you recovered. But injuries did start to slow you down a bit. 1985 into the halfway point of the 1986 season. You played the Giants and lost. Cardinals go to 0-5. And you had a little conversation with one of your teammates on the field, which I wasn't aware that I thought Jim Burt was a nose tackle. I didn't even know he was the general manager of the team, OJ, but tell us about that.
Yeah, kind of make you wonder, right?
Assistant GM to George Young.
Yeah, well, Jim Brennan and I played at Miami for 2 years, and Jim was in the league at the time, and we just played the Giants at the Busch Stadium, and he come by and said, "Hey man, how would you like to be a Giant?" And I looked at him, I go like, "What?" He said, "How would you like to be a Giant?" And I said, "Man, listen, one thing I know about the Cardinals organization is one, they're not going to be to the division. That's the first thing they're not going to do,
Hmm.
and the second thing they're not going to do is give me to the Giants. We're a team that we're going to play twice a year, so I don't see that happening. But if that was to go down, I would love to be a Giant, but that's not going to happen."
And that sets you up for a phone call from Bill Parcells that you were convinced was probably it was just another one of those crank phone calls. There.
Yeah.
It wasn't really Bill Parcells on the phone, was it?
Well, I thought not, but it actually
Turned
ended
out.
up being Bill. Yeah. And I inadvertently hung up on him, and he called right back, and I kind of realized it is Bill. So a little cheese I had to eat, but to this day, I don't think he knew I hung up on him on purpose. I kind of let him believe that it was just a misconnection at the time.
Well, and so the trade came through for 2 draft picks. You come to the Giants. Now to the Giant portion of your career. You were the 11th all-time runner in the NFL, almost 8,000 yards to that point in your career. And believe me, as a Giant fan at the time, you absolutely killed the Giants every time. You had almost 1,200 yards alone in your 12 games against the Giants. Before we talk about the Giants, what about playing against that Giant defense? Now you were going over to the other side, but just to give us some perspective of what it's like playing. You had success against the Giants defense, even though they had some outstanding players.
Well, you just meeting Harry Carson twice a year was more than enough. He was probably one of the most fierce linebackers I faced during my career as a Cardinal for all 7 years. Is freaking playing them during Giants. I didn't have fear much of any other team, even though the Cowboys had the flex defense, and Philly was trying to do what they were doing, in Washington at the time was a team that was up and coming at players with. Man, and I think it was Mendenhall. I forget the defensive players over there with Redskins, but the point was the Giants was by far the best of the best when it came down to defense, especially when Parcells got there, and then later on they got Lawrence and then Banks, and it was not easy. It was always one of them games, and people talk about Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers in this era of physicality. I'm telling you right now, physicality, when you go back and look at the Giants and the Cardinals, it was those kind of games that we had with them because we were both at the bottom of the cellar, but we played like we were number one and number two playing against each other. And it was always physical. And it was a game that I dread playing every time I saw them on the schedule, but I knew that it was going to be twice a year, so get man up on it.
You come to the Giants, and there was almost perception at the time. Joe Morris was the feature back. They had a young guy, Lee Roos, on. They had Tony Galbraith was the third down specialist. Maurice Carthon, you became buddies with, the blocking fullback. And a rookie that just never really, and once again, speaking like a Giant fan, George Adams was out of Kentucky. He seemed like he was going to be a back of the future. He was versatile. He was injured. He was often injured. So when you came to the team, it was really kind of made clear that you were now the guy that had been a feature back his entire career. You were more an insurance policy and then maybe would evolve into a short yardage specialist.
Well, that's how Bill sold it to me when he brought me in. He said, listen, I got Joe Morris, but every once in a while he needs a break. I need more production out of the fullback position, so I want you to learn that position as well. And so that I put you and Joe in the game, they didn't know who was getting the ball. That's what Bill's philosophy and thought was. But insurance policy, yes. My goal was not to disrupt what was happening. The team at the time was playing well. They were 5-1, and I was 1-5 leaving the Cardinals. So I went from the outhouse to the penthouse. So it was an easy transition for me in that manner. So I just didn't want to disturb the core of what the team was doing, as Joe Morris was having one of the best seasons he ever had. And I think clearly it had to do with a lot me being back there waiting on opportunity because, listen, competition makes all of us better. And I believe Joe knew that I was capable of playing well And he just had one of the most remarkable years. I think over 1,500 yards
Oh, yeah.
that season, and we ended up winning the Super Bowl. So Joe did a lot of great things for us.
And in that run to the Super Bowl, you did have a Super Bowl moment that at the time you might have perception, and maybe from some other people, hey, that was great for the old running back to cap his career. And Bill called your name, and he got you in there late in the Super Bowl and gave you an opportunity to take it into the end zone.
Yeah, again, Bill being the coach that he was, he said to me, "Listen, kid," he said, "you played 7 years in the league. You may never come here again, and you've been just a great player and a model citizen. Now to peek out of you as far as your role, I'm gonna do something for you. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to go down and try to score in the Super Bowl, and if it worked, you can always say you was one of those guys who made a touchdown in the Super Bowl, a part of a winning team." And he gave me that chance, and I was able to capture that moment. I remember scoring and in the end zone where I gave the ball away, I believe, to Stomp Mitchell, who was one of my best friends and teammates. So it all worked itself out in that manner.
Then the following year, of course, was marred by the NFL strike, and was one of those years that you put the asterisk in the book. And with you, no exception, you didn't have a lot of work that year. It was very disjointed overall. You come to 1988, and you're still part of the Giants at that point, and a season that the Giants, their hopes were dashed the very last game of the year in terms of being able to make the playoffs, despite having double-digit wins. But in the offseason, leading up to 1989, once again, Bill, not just the master coach, OJ, but the master psychologist, he gave you the word on the off-season workouts, and I think maybe testing you a little bit, and a test that you passed, and it proved to be a great move on your part to make sure you were ready for what turned out to be your comeback season.
Well, Bill had clearly said to me after the season of '87 that off-season workout program was very important for everybody but me. He said you didn't have to really come to the off-season workout program, but I understood that as a player, if you're going to be a part of a team and you're not invited to the off-season workout, one of the most important part of bonding with your teammates and just doing that, I knew something wasn't right. So I decided that no matter what, I'm going to do off-season workout program. Whether or not I was given what we call a stipend for those who live in state and those who live out of state. So I did the whole first half of our off-season workout program without receiving any kind of stipend. It was all myself doing everything. So it was just easy for me to just sit there and just go through the program, and that's what I did. And after the second half of the program, Johnny Parker went to Bill and said, "Hey, Bill, this guy been here. He's been a model citizen. He's done everything I've asked to do. He helped a young ball player. Can we at least give him something for his time and commitment he's making to the organization?" And Bill was like, "Okay, we'll give him in-state stipend, which is a few $100s less than out of state." So I was just happy to even consider it. And from that point on, that kind of helped me out because I stayed there and I learned the offense and I became more familiar with all the players and each other and the coaching staff. And even though I started '88 as the last running back on the depth chart and playing against Lawrence and those guys in scrimmage games, was like playing against them when I was a Cardinal. It was very easy because I played against number one all my life. So to play against them in practice was easy. So it was easy for me.
And as it turns out, it was beyond fortuitous for you. Opportunity did knock, and it knocked as it often does in the NFL. It becomes the next man up, and the opportunity presented itself with Joe Morris having the foot injury, breaking his foot. And suddenly, as is going to be retold forever, as long as there's people watching NFL films, there's Bill on the sideline saying, "Get me OJ." And he did get OJ. And all of a sudden, you're back, and you're the lead dog again. You're the lead horse again to pull, as Bill said, to pull the wagon.
Yeah, it was amazing how that happened. He came to me and he said, "Kid, I know you've been sideline for a while. I just want to know you got any gas in the tank. Let me know now in case I need to go get somebody else. I said, no, I can do it. He said, you can pull a load. I said, absolutely. And my first game back was against the Redskins, and I think I rushed for over 100 yards.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And
or should I say Washington team?
that's right. I was going to say, that's right.
Politically correct.
That's politically correct. That's right. The Washington football team. That's right. As we're calling them right now. Also, a story that I'd love to have you share with us, and I can remember it back in the day of me being a diehard Giants fan. Bill always had stories, parables, and stories to illustrate some of his points. And he told you, there was another guy there, was Lewis Tillman, was a young back at the time, and he recounted to you the legend of Old Red.
That's interesting. And I actually saw that movie. I thought it was a great movie about a dog that never gave up, even though he had a younger pup that was around him, pushed him to achieve his best. But that's kind of the deal that Parcells did to me. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Old Red, and Lewis Tillman was the young pup, but it was OJ taking charge. And at age 32, the oldest running back in the NFL. Once again, to give you an idea about the life expectancy at that position, 1,000 yards that year, the comeback player of the year, and proved that, as Bill said, that dog can still hunt. And the season itself, the Giants were once again one of the prominent teams in a very, very competitive NFC at the time. You had a great team, obviously, in San Francisco. You had the Washington football team that was there year in and year out, the Bears, etc. And playoff game in 1989. Your memories about that, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I remember being in the press box covering that game. A huge disappointment in particular, but for you, because of the premonition that you'd had years ago about your destiny, it seemed like your destiny had maybe been deferred forever because of the results of Flipper Anderson receiving that pass and then running out of Giant Stadium onto Route 17.
Yeah, absolutely. I came out of Miami in '79, as we illustrated early on, and I predicted that my football career, if I was a featured running back and played in the state of Florida, and Super Bowl was in Florida, I'll be an MVP of Super Bowl. 12 years later, that became real when after Flipper Anderson, at that time the Super Bowl was at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, and '89 I was the featured running back. So we went into the season '90. That was my goal. That was my chance. That was my premonition. But unfortunately, Flipper Anderson destroyed that, and I thought my prediction was finally over and that would never happen. But who knows what God has planned for you? And I remember talking to Maurice on the stool with my hand in my face and saying what I had predicted. And Maurice said, well, next year the Super Bowl is in Tampa, Florida. And I said, Maurice, don't kid around with me. Be serious. He said, no, it really is in Tampa, Florida. I said, well, Maurice, if it's in Tampa, Florida, like you saying, I promise you, we will be there because that's my destiny and my last chance to fulfill it. And behold.
And as it turned out, not bad for a guy, at that time, OJ, as you remember, the NFL, they had that Plan B free agency. The players were left unprotected. They could move from team to team. I believe you told John Madden that you basically had your own self-styled plan. It was Plan C.
Yeah, because I knew anybody wanted me. I was too old. So, and the only people that even had any interest with me was the Giants, and only because Bill felt bad for me, I guess. At 30-some years old, who else wanted a guy 30-some years old? So Bill kept me around, not knowing that he would actually have to use me, because that year in '90, we drafted in the first round Rodney Hampton from the University of Georgia. So
right,
we know when you draft a guy in the first round, he's going to play. But again, I came off one of my all-time great seasons as a 31-year-old running back. I went over 1,000 yards, and actually, I tried to be a holdout to get more money. And Bill said, I remember Bill telling Maurice Carthon, we pulled the be in on a Thursday, and I'm trying to hold out. Bill said, I'll tell you what, if he here by Friday, tell him he ain't got to come. Well,
it's a good thing that you saw the writing on the wall twice. Once about your contract demand, and twice knowing from a decade earlier what it's like when a running back gets drafted first. There's plans for a guy.
in that situation, and with Hampton coming on. The whole concept. I'm sure that you thought about, OJ. I've certainly thought about it because of your unique aspect to your career, about the rest for your body. I mean, you had, Howard Cosell used to say, he'd talk about Muhammad Ali when he was forced to the sidelines during his career with the draft scenario. He'd say 3.5 years of enforced idleness, and your idleness was somewhat enforced as a backup. But did you feel like your body was regenerated to take the load that you took in '89 and then to '90?
Absolutely. Again, I wasn't used that much, especially when Hampton showed that he was well enough to run with the ball. I became a backup and took Joe Marr's position,
Right.
where a backup, backup to Rodney. So I knew what it was like to be a starter and become a backup. So that's what I did, and I just cherished that moment and just made sure I was ready when opportunity presented itself. Because Bill always says, the backup, you one player away from being on the field.
Mm-hmm. You talked about some of the guys. You had some outstanding guys in the offensive line to run behind. Bob Young, who had just a great NFL career, well into his 30s. Dan Dierdorf, some of the guys that we talked about a moment ago. What about the legend of the Suburbanites? The Giants' offensive line at the time was a great unit. What about the experience, the camaraderie, the continuity, and also the opportunity to run behind those guys on a regular basis?
Well, I had a lot of young guys. I had William Roberts, that was probably 2 or 3 years in the league. Jumbo was a rookie. Bart was the elder statesperson because he was the center. And then you had Bobby Kratt, you had Eric Moore, you had Doug Riesenberg.
Yep.
So we had some players that fought hard. Carl Nelson one year. So we had players who fought hard. And was undersized somewhat, but they was able to get the job done, and so we maintained.
Mm-hmm. And didn't mention about splitting time with Rodney Hampton. Now, a decade later, you were in the mentoring role to really bring, even though you guys were battling for playoff time. Again, what comes out when I look back was the superlatives from Bill Parcells, your head coach, Ray Hanley, your position coach, Ron Earhart, the offensive coordinator, about your unselfishness and your ability to mentor Rodney Hampton, even though that you guys were, splitting the rock.
Well, you learned a long time ago. Football, NFL stands for not for long, and
Good for you.
Been in the league for over 12 years.
Yep.
Made a huge difference,
mm-hmm.
and having that opportunity to bring along that kind of talent, you have to just shake your head about, because you knew he was good and you saw the things he did.
Indeed. And once again, down the stretch and splitting time. And then we take you to a game in the divisional playoffs, the Giants. Obviously, there was a lot of doubt about the Giants because of the injury to Phil Simms late in the season, the Buffalo game, and Jeff Hostetler ascending to the starting role. Your relationship with Jeff Hostetler, OJ, obviously a lot of similarity about the Giants and that Super Bowl championship team, with Jeff off the bench, you in a more prominent role. What about your relationship with Jeff and what he went through with some of the things that were analogous between the two of you?
Well, Jeff and I, we practiced second team all the time when Simms was there, so we had a relationship. He knew how I liked the ball handed off to me, and he knew how what pocket I made. So we grew together. So when we became starters, we laughed about it because we were thinking, here we go, practice boys off the practice squad, kind of, and now we are starters. So let's just make this thing work.
And then the first playoff game, the Giants hosting the Chicago Bears. And remember that day well at the old Giants Stadium. I would suffice to say, because of your selection, your apparel that day, that it turned out you weren't expecting to play. You had a little bit of a mistake that turned out to be something that became one of Bill Parcells' many superstitions.
Yeah, I inadvertently had my practice pants on, and the rumor with Parcells, if you play a game in something that if it's not ordinary for you and you win, and he finds out about it, he wants you to have them again. So what basically happened was, when they found out that I had on my practice pants and we won, then they quickly made sure that I had it on the next game and then the next game, and it just blossomed from there.
One of the most superstitious guys in a world of superstition in professional sports. The practice pants made perfect for O.J. Anderson in that game, in that victory over the Bears. You did some hard running in that game. You got it 21 times. You had 80 yards in the game, and the adrenaline really taken over with you taking the position with the Hampton's injury. I think one of the highlights of that game, Jeff Hostetler's touchdown. Do you remember the big block you put? You get to block a refrigerator. It's not often you get to block a kitchen appliance.
No, I did. I was actually trying to see if they'd have any food in there when I went to try to open up the kitchen, the refrigerator. But unfortunately, by not being my refrigerator, I couldn't get it open, so I just knocked it down.
That's right. Knocked the fridge down and led Jeff Hostetler in the end zone. And the Giants were the next week were somehow a lot of people counting them out, and were on their way to San Francisco, and rematch with the 49ers. You know, one of the games, OJ, looking back 30 years later, it's a game that I think as long as people are going to talk about the NFL, they're going to talk about that game. Your memories, what immediately comes to mind about, I happen to watch the game on tape in the pandemic. Everybody's watching tapes of old games. I happen to watch it recently. The ferocity of that game, the physicality. I mean, it makes what's going on today in the NFL look like a 7-on-7 drill.
It really does, because, you know, the way you can hit a player was legal compared to what you can do now. And it would have been hard for us to play under those rules based on the years we had to learn to play the game the way it was played. But yes, it was one of the most physical games we played. But we knew that the winner out that game probably hands-on winner to win the Super Bowl, and we was able to accomplish that.
Indeed, you were. Once again, the psychologist that was Bill Parcells, he had a little talk with the team about the travel arrangements. There was an unusual situation with no 2-week gap in between the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. Just to give us an idea about what Bill had to offer in terms of how he was packing and what the expectations were to pack. Of course, you knew you had to pack your practice pants. That was required.
Oh, yeah, I knew whatever it was, I had to have those practice pants packed. But Bill, you know, the motivator that he was, he challenged us by saying, listen, we can practice for 1 week, pack for 1 week, or you can pack for 2 weeks. He said, I'm bringing a suitcase large enough for 2 weeks. If you're all part of this, you bring yours tomorrow, which was that Friday. You bring the suitcase big enough to pack for 2 weeks, because when we leave San Francisco, we're going straight to Tampa. So I just want to know who's aboard. Everybody showed up next day with double bags because we were going to Tampa.
And it was on to San Francisco. The Giants were on.
I'm in San Francisco, yeah.
It's up for San Francisco, and your thought as you had the opportunity. You know, here it was. You were close to the dream had been deferred. Now you had a chance, opportunity to fulfill your destiny. It comes down to Matt Barr's field goal, and as far as what was going through your head and the head of everybody on that sideline, I'm sure was shared. But particularly for you, you made the promise to Maurice Compton, we're going to be there. Now it's all riding on the foot of Matt Barr if he's going to be able to get you there in the end.
Well, yeah, Matt did a great job. I think he kicked quite a few field goals for it that day, and we just knew we just had to just hold on and give him an opportunity. And once we did, everybody knew what happened. He made the field goal, and we was on our way to Tampa.
And you guys packed the right way. You packed heavy. You didn't pack light. And with the backdrop of the Gulf War, I know that there's NFL film of you in your hotel room watching the coverage of the Gulf War, as everybody was riveted to at that time. Security was unprecedented. And I know that you were interviewed, OJ, for a special that was done on Whitney Houston. That moment of the Star-Spangled Banner and Whitney Houston's rendition, that's just another aspect of that game and the backdrop of that game it's 30 years, it'll be talked about for another 30 or another 100, just a stirring moment.
Well, for sure, because one thing for sure, Whitney Houston won't be ever performing such a great redemption of the national anthem. And two, it was the Gulf War, which was a war that clearly they thought about not having a game. So everything panned out and worked out well for us. Everything fell into place for us, and I'm just glad to be a part of that type of history where one we won, and the fact that we had one of the greatest entertainer perform the national anthem for us.
I didn't know what the background was until I did a little bit of digging, but apparently they go on each side. They go to about 4 or 5 candidates for the MVP award for the Disney people at the time with their advertising campaign. And everybody had a choice. You could give the traditional, would it become a traditional, I'm going to Disney World, or you can say, I dedicate this win to our troops. And you opted for, if you had the opportunity, I think you knew which way you were going to go. And you were the only guy ever in that scenario that had a chance to say that they were dedicating the win to the troops as opposed to I'm going to Disney World. You made that clear at the time, and you ended up having the opportunity. The window of opportunity presented itself.
Yeah, another thing I could tag my hat to is that I'm the only player that ever said anything different. And to dedicate the win to the troops was probably one of the most important things that I could have done after even winning on behalf of all the troops, was to dedicate that game to them and all the fans of Giants who lived around the world to watch that game.
Your dream, your destiny, now you have the opportunity, and it is the formidable Buffalo Bills. As far as the game plan, once again, Bill Belichick and his defensive game plan resides in Canton in the Hall of Fame. Team that scored 95 points in their previous 2 playoff games. And there was a definite plan in mind for Fargo, Ron Earhart, and Bill Parcells. And the plan, I'm sure, was to the liking of you. It was going to be to control the ball, not turn it over, and really to be able to just try to pound the Bills' defense to death and wear them down. Actually, OJ, just to give us a little bit of insight, Ron Earhart, you had a great relationship, rapport with him as the offensive coordinator. He actually came to you and asked you about what plays you were going to be comfortable with running that day. You guys really wanted to simplify it.
Yeah, he did. It wasn't going to be anything fancy. He said, you want to stay between the tackles? I said, absolutely. He said, if we go outside, we'll give Megan an opportunity to stretch the field. Lewis Tillman to stretch the field. He said, but, every once in a while, Bill peeped his head in there and said, hey, every once in a while, we got to give the big guy a chance to get outside just to trick him. So there was a few plays I did try to get outside, and one you know about, which is that notorious run that I went down the left sideline and the big hit on Mark Kelso. So our game plan worked. I say out of the 24 carries, 22 was all inside and 2 was outside.
And one was will never be forgotten by Mark Kelso. He might still be feeling it with that the stiff arm that you delivered. It really personified the blue collar mentality of that Giant team, and the defense was dishing out pain all afternoon, OJ, on those Buffalo receivers. But you showed the offense could dish out a little bit of pain. As your pal, I know you're very close with the champ, Larry Holmes. Has he ever talk about that uppercut that you delivered?
Yeah. Larry asked me a few times about it. Like, did you learn that from me? I said, well, it was before I knew you, champ, but I still deliver what I thought you'd be proud of. So,
Indeed. And it turned out to be a pretty good ride because what was it? Ride 34 and ride 35. Inside right, inside left.
That's it.
Yep. Those are the 2 plays.
That's what the play. Ride 34, ride 35. You can't beat it. Those were the plays that I had.
Absolutely. And the Giants, they bookended 2 drives, 8.5 and 9.5 minutes, set the record for time of possession all time in the Super Bowl. You had your season high with 102 yards, averaged almost 5 yards a carry in the game. And one of the things that I think is underestimated when you go back and you look at what Jeff did in the passing game was the ability for the run game, once again, to be able to, the play action, the look of play action, that threat really set up Jeff to make some big, you think of some of the big throws he made to Bavaro and Ingram, particularly down the stretch of that game.
Oh, he did. And that's why it worked, because we were so dominant running the football that they had to respect the fact of coming up and trying to stop me up the middle. And that gave us to throw the ball over the top. And by doing that, you saw what happened. We were able to get some passes over the top. Mark Ingram made one of the most incredible catch and run in the history of Super Bowls for me ever, when he caught that ball short of the first down and made the moves that he made to get that first down and keep the drive alive and gave us a chance to take the go-ahead touchdown and never gave up the lead from that point on.
Got to mention, I think the ultimate, I can't imagine more of a lesson, if you will, in humility than the one that you personally received with a conversation with your teammate, Mark Ingram. I remember seeing it when I first was aware of it, and I couldn't believe it. Where has he gone? Where did that guy go? You gotta be able to recount that. I'm still amazed. You must have been amazed at the time with Mark Ingram recounting that to you.
Well, Mark Ingram at the time was a giant first-round draft pick. He came from Michigan State, and the guy that he knew on his team was Carl Banks, both Michigan State guys. And I remember being in the shower area and getting, just got done playing football, practicing, and we were just kind of hanging out there. And Mark Ingram came up to me. He said, "Hey, man, you ever heard of Ottis Anderson?" I said, yeah. He said, "You know what? When I was growing up, I loved him. I was in the backyard. I said I was Ottis Anderson. I was Ottis Anderson." And he said, and I just never know. He just like disappeared. I said, "No, he's still around." He said, "Well, where is he? Who he play for?" I said, "Well, you talking to him?" He said, "Talking to who?" I said, "You talking to Ottis Anderson?" He said, "No, you O.J. Anderson." "No, I'm Ottis Anderson as well." He said, "No, you're not. You O.J. Anderson." I said, "Well, go ask Banks." So he go to Carl Banks. Carl Banks said, "No, Ottis Anderson is O.J. Anderson." And Ingram runs back toward the shower room and looked at me, go like, "You O.J.? You're O.J. Anderson? You mean you're Ottis, not O.J.?" I mean, oh my God, I can't believe it. And he just ripped and raved. He was like, "Oh my God, you're my hero. I mean, I always wanted to be you. I was a running back and I was you. I did things that you did. And now I'm talking to you." So it was an eye-awakening to me to see how far you have journeyed from reality of a lot of kids. So it was good to know that Mark played me, and even Stephen Baker kidded me all the time about it.
Yep.
About how he was me when he was growing up. And the fact that he's one of my closest friends now. And he kids me all the time about being me in the backyard. I said, "Well, don't feel bad. I was some of those players. Gale Sayers was in the backyard too, and O.J. Simpson and other people around the league. I was there. I was those guys too. So it goes in cycle, Baker. Some little kid somewhere saying he's Stephen Baker, the touchdown maker. Feel good about somebody who want to be somebody."
Indeed, I was going to say that was one of those moments for you, a little bit of an epiphany, an awakening that, hey, I really have been around a while. I got guys on my team that grew up idolizing me,
Absolutely.
Well, down the stretch, and once again, I know what it was like to be a Giant fan, and you can only imagine what it was like on the sidelines. But as the game came down, with Scott Norwood lining up for that field goal, as Bill Parcells has said many times, hey, 47 yards on grass to win the Super Bowl. Norwood had been 1 for 5 on grass, 40-plus yards. Not an easy kick, let alone to win the Super Bowl. But the pressure was a little bit different for you on the sideline, OJ, because you had a representative of Disney actually in your ear. And on the other sideline, Thurman Thomas had one in his ear. I mean, this was like the ultimate game show. You win or you lose.
Yeah, exactly. It was amazing that Saturday before the Super Bowl, Disney picked 5 players they thought were impact players of the game that would be candidates of announcing the Disney slogan of going to Disney World. And it was me, Jeff, Lauren, I think
Navarro, yep.
And Leonard Marshall, maybe. I think was 5 guys we had. And on the other side of the field, it was Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas, Cornelius Bennett, Bruce Smith, and maybe James Law and Jim Kelly. So it was those 5 guys, and they had it right. Thurman clearly was going to be the MVP had he made that field goal, but my prediction and voodoo and everything else that went along with it gave me that chance to live out my fantasy and my fantasy and also my prediction. Like I tell people all the time, Muhammad Ali wasn't the only guy who could predict a victory.
That's right. You put yourself in that class. Were you standing next to Compton? I'm trying to remember. Were you next to Compton at the time saying, "Hey, don't worry about this. We got it. I told you a year ago."
No, no. Unfortunately, I was on the one knee, toward the end of the field, ready to run into the locker room had he made it.
Hmm.
I guess I was going to be a poor sport about it, but
Ah,
hindsight probably would not have been. But I was on the end. I was looking at Buffalo sideline. So when the kick went up, I saw Mark Levy, Andre Reed, and James Lawson grab hands, and their hands started to rise. And I was like, "Oh shoot!" And then instantly they dropped the hands, and then Brown, our outside rusher, and
hmm.
Elton Wall threw their hands in the air, and all I kept hearing was wide right, and all I could hear was Disney chasing me down, saying, "You the MVP, and what are you going to say?" I dedicate this win to our troops. That's all I remember.
Everson Walls got the cover. You had the cover though before. You get that cover on the wall anymore? And I'll be honest, that giant steps is a great action shot.
Well, I'm just so happy that I did not see that prior to the game because Sports Illustrated
Yes,
carried a
I
zinc.
cover.
It carried a zinc.
That's right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's jinx
That's
for
right.
anyone who on the cover prior to a major event. They don't do well,
Hmm.
and I had no idea I was on the cover. Had I known that, I think it would probably played a part in my head because, that run that I made down the sideline when I wind up to hit Mark Kelso, if you look in the background, Cornelius Bennett was right behind me, and he could have easily knocked the ball out of my arm because I had the ball unsecured because I was so caught up in trying to punish Mark Kelso that the ball was actually away from my body,
Hmm.
and the Cornelius Bennett just happened to go for the tackle instead of the ball. And clearly, had he not made that tackle, because he actually got me down, Mark Kelso, I would have kept going. I would have ran through him and got more yardage. But Bruce Smith, not Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett was the man who saved a longer run. Also, he could have been a hero.
And as you mentioned, from your angle on the field goal, you thought there was reports that you said you thought it might have looked good. You needed that validation of Walls and Brown and everybody
Yep.
on the field to
Yep.
take that sigh of relief.
Exactly. It was. That's the only reason why I knew it was missed. It looked like it was right, but the angle I had looked good all the way. And just the crowd and the celebration on the field gave me the true indication that he had missed it.
When you wish upon a star and the ending to one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, it remains. It stood the test of time. And obviously the unique, one of the most unique in terms of the overall, the experience that with the backdrop, with the Gulf War, et cetera. You were with the Giants for 91, another year that was marred by strike, finished up in 1992. And once again, as I make this case for the Hall of Fame, probably aware of this, maybe not, 739 touches as a Giant, 3 fumbles. That's going to keep you in Bill Parcells' lineup. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, it will. And I don't know if people know a whole lot about football, but to have a ball in your hand that many times and only have 3 fumbles, I think 2 I lost and 1 I recovered myself, which was in the playoff game against the Rams. So it's 3 on the books, but only 2 I lost. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of holding on to that football right there.
Well, I'm going to try to make the case. Unfortunately, Johnny Cochran's not with us anymore, but I'm going to do my best to make this case for you to get you to Canton.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Indeed. Well, once a Giant, always a Giant. I know you've stayed close to the organization over the years, but OJ, your work since the ending of your career, my goodness, it's run the gamut. You've had a lot of great experiences. You still do motivational speaking, your entrepreneurship. You've worked in the media, and from a charitable standpoint, it'd be easy for me to list charities that you haven't worked with. Do you have a strong sense of community? I mean, you've been an amazing philanthropist with, MS, Boys and Girls Clubs, United Way, breast cancer,
March of Dime.
March of Dimes.
Yeah.
I saw on YouTube the piece that you did where you went to that elementary school and you charmed them for about 15 minutes there, and you do a lot of work with schools and education. Is this something that really goes back to your upbringing and your roots, et cetera, that you have a real serious and abiding interest and concern and accountability for this?
Well, I had some men in my life that really saw enough in me to help me along, and I'm just trying to reciprocate. Reciprocate. I can't even say the word now. My mouth just not going with it. Thank you, reciprocate.
Yep.
And I just want to do that. I just want to give back because I was blessed to have an opportunity and have someone to say, you know what, this kid may not have a lot, may not have that mentor in his life, but there's some good in him, and there's some opportunities, and the support that I got from Little League coaches and one guy in particular, at Callaway, who was a good time mentor for me, Mel Obradovich, who drove my mom every Saturday down to Miami to see me play. Him and his family, it just was so much, and I just knew that if I had a chance to make it as a professional, I would try to impact kids' lives like mine was impacted. And if they were in a financial situation and I could lend of my time and of my money at the time to help those individuals out, that's what I felt that not that I wanted to do it, I felt that I needed to do it because I was so blessed to have had an opportunity coming out of the projects of West Palm Beach, Florida, and playing a childhood dream. You just don't get that opportunity all the time, and I just wanted to share that with others. So my foundation is about scholarships, and it's about giving kids who are struggling financially, but want to go to college, have the grades to go to college, but just fall short on funds, and we're just trying to help them along.
And we want to let everybody know that if you want to support the O.J. Anderson Scholarship Fund, you can go to you have a website. People can get more information about that. And also from a business standpoint about speaking engagements. And you're now also vice president the last, I believe, 3 years of business development for your own company, which is involved in exhibitions and trade shows. We can only hope that business is going to be revitalized with everything.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The trade show is what it is. And, you have to be able to adjust. And my new adjustment is my teammate Lawrence Taylor, Mark Bavaro, partnered up with a company called Tridelics. And we've been able to take 5D technology and convert it to a depth perception of pictures. So we have taken 3D and enhanced it by 2D and give you a deeper perception in a shadow box type image. And the NFL gave us license to do all 32 teams helmets. So we have been able to create every helmet logo and present it. And today was our first day on Whole Shopping Network.
Checking out your debut, you mentioned about a couple of your former teammates that are involved with you. You've had you've had a very close relationship with Lawrence Taylor. I guess so goes the story. You were the guy that was telling Lawrence, start coming home at 2 a.m. You don't have to stay out till 3.
Well, Lawrence is his own man. And if Lawrence respect you, he listen to you. And he respect my craft. He respect me as a teammate. And, Lawrence was Lawrence, but he did take heed to some of the things I said. And now we're business partner. We're having fun at what we're doing here at Tridelics. It's just, he and I and Bavaro, we just having fun. We kids in a candy store with all this new technology and have a way of bringing the world something they never seen before, which is this type of technology.
Yeah, it's thin like a flat screen TV. You just show them like a flat.
You know what? Exactly. It's not even. It's crazy. It's just that thin, ladies and gentlemen. The company is called Tridelics. Tridelix. Tridelics.com. Tridelics. Tridelics.
I'll tell you, just wrapping up. We mentioned about the Hall of Fame and the possibility. I got to ask you about one guy. The only career that I can really think when you talk about longevity at the position, this guy is still going. Is it something about the water down there in Miami?
Come on with it. I know what you're talking about. Yes,
16
sir.
years, Frank Gore. My
Yes, sir.
goodness. What is it about Miami running backs, you guys?
Well, you know what? It's just what we do. It's if you look at the greatness in Miami history of running backs, going back to Chuck Foreman, who
Yep.
paved the way for me.
Yep.
And then after me, you had James and McGahee.
Melvin Bratton.
You got Melvin Bratton. You had Highsmith.
Highsmith.
I mean, gosh, and the list just goes on when you start talking about
Unbelievable.
Kane running backs, and to know that you're part of that history, and Frank Gore just making us all proud because he's Father Time and he know how to beat Father Times, and you know he's just blessed after having a horrific injury and able to still overcome that and just have just a great career.
Indeed. Well, yeah, no, unique career and still going, Frank Gore. There's not too many guys you talk about double digits as we mentioned at that position. And just a couple of final words, just the impact, the magnitude, what you did, the unique quality of what you did. You know, the revitalized to come back to be once again to be that lead horse pulling the wagon again. And I love the comment way back in the day from Leonard Marshall. It was like James Brown reappearing at the Apollo Theater.
Like Lazarus coming from the grave. He also said that as well.
and you had Parcells talking about Elvis. You know, Bill's a little older. He said Elvis on the comeback trail. But the ultimate compliment from Bill Parcells was, and I've kind of adopted that. I use it from time to time. I should be paying Bill a royalty is, hey, this guy's got a few pelts on his horse. You have a few pelts.
Come on now. That's his favorite word. He always said, if you don't have no pelts, you can't talk. And if you got a few on your horse, you're pretty good.
Indeed. Well, we can only hope that this journey, we've taken you on a journey here this afternoon and really enjoyed it. We can only hope that the journey will end in Canton. You've got some great support. Bill Parcells wrote, looking at the letters to the Hall of Fame, your unselfishness, your missing piece of a championship puzzle, relied heavily, his veteran leadership, his toughness, fighting his way to Super Bowl 25 and beyond. Never shined brighter at that time with the heavy lifting that you did all the way down the stretch for the Giants to win that Super Bowl. Some surveys have said you're the number 2 running back not in the Hall of Fame after Roger Craig, who obviously played a big part with the fumble in that NFC Championship. But it's something that I'm sure you think about as we wrap up, OJ. How can you not? You probably from day to day think about why you haven't been able to get the recognition or the consideration that you would think a 10,000-yard NFL running back with all the accolades and the unique aspects of your career would have got.
Well, I think because I played 7 years in St. Louis, and it not being media mecca of the world like L.A. and New York and Chicago and Texas. I think, had I played in one of those markets early on, I don't think it would have been a question. But I think the first 7 years in St. Louis and those who actually saw me play, even though I played in 3 decades, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and pretty much got 1,000 yards in all 3 decades, they are no longer around. So people who really saw me, the sporting news, people who wrote many articles about me back in the day, they're gone. And I think the new generation who don't know the history of myself, they only look at these guys currently, like Terrell Davis, who just went in, ahead of me, and pretty impressive stats he had, but they'll figure it out. I gave up, like Harry told me, you know what? If you live your life worrying about whether or not you are Hall of Fame worthy, all you got to do is ask the people you played against. And now the player who in the Hall of Fame who played against me wouldn't tell you that not only was I was the key to stopping the Cardinals and at the time the Giants when I played, nightmares forever. That's what I need. As long as my peers know my talent, my peers know that I gave it all. The fans who saw me knew that I gave it all. I'm good. I'm one of 50 guys with an MVP. I'm one of few guys who was voted comeback player of the year and rookie of the year. So I do have some individual honors that are marquee for a lot of players who are in there that don't have them, probably won't have them. But The Hall of Fame is ultimate where you want to go, but that ain't the only place to go. So I take what I've done, and I'm proud of it. I put my stats up against anybody in the Hall of Fame, anybody who's going in the Hall of Fame. And I tell people all the time, I have 14 years on my resume, but I ain't played 14 straight years. And that's what I tell them. Go back, look at it, and you'll see. For the first 4 years of my career, there was nobody better than even the current guys who are in there, even the current guys who are on mission to now. Look at my first 4 years, 79, 80, 81. Throw away 82, was a short season. 83,
Right.
84. Pull them up. 79, 80, 81, 83, 84. Pull them up, ladies and gentlemen, and put them against anybody you want to. And you'll see what I'm talking about.
Indeed. From West Palm Beach to the U, to the Gateway Arch of St. Louis, to the swamps of Jersey. And hopefully we could still say, hey, you got my vote. I'm in your corner. We'll do anything we can for you, OJ. Believe me, it's been great spending time. And hopefully someday to Canton. And if you do get to Canton, let me just be Coach Parcells for a minute. Bring the practice pants. Pack the practice pants.
You know what? That's a great idea. Let that be it. And that part of it, I'll walk on stage with them on. How about that?
Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
It's a date.
Like
OJ, thanks very much. You played well with us on the Games People Play. Many thanks for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Anytime. Thank you, Burns.
OJ Anderson, OJ Anderson, my man, our man here today on the Games People Play. And I want to thank OJ for playing with us today. I want to thank executive producer Andy Bernstein. He's off site today for all of the above and for OJ Anderson. This is Bernie Corbett saying, play well, everyone.
Vintage Brand is the story of American sporting culture, combining our rich history, traditions, rituals, and pageantry. Weaving together more than a century of American sports memories and images, it defines what tradition really means. Come experience the history and rituals. Remember and honor the legends. Feel the passion and pageantry of the past. Welcome to the greatest collection of American sports history and images, all reproduced on fan apparel and merchandise. Welcome to Vintage Brand.